What's up, you nerds? I love doing that. It's so funny. I don't know why. It's
our like catchphrase.
It's like a thing that I do now. I don't know where it came from, but it happened one day, and now I'm continuing to do it. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Yellow Spandex, where we talk about all kinds of goofy shit. Today, we actually pretty much just talked about Joker, the new Joker movie.
Spoilers, especially towards the end.
It's all we go through almost point to point on the entire.
There's no way to talk
script.
about the movie without spoiling the whole thing. You should pause this right now and go see it if you haven't yet.
Yeah.
Listen to one of the other podcasts.
And if you're hanging out, you're listening, make sure to leave a review for us or
on Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, or a comment on YouTube if you're listening there.
Ooh, that's true. All right.
And here we go.
What are we talking about this week? Wait, are you still not seeing Joker, or are you thinking about it?
I'm thinking about seeing Joker.
Okay, we won't talk about that.
We can talk about it totally, 100%. I don't care. If I go to see it, I'll probably get spoiled by it by the time I go see it. It'll probably be a week or two at least. I don't know if my wife will be interested in seeing it.
I mean, I don't blame you for not wanting to see it, especially because of like how traumatic the movie is.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I loved it. Like any thought that I had that it might have been a cash grab or something. I mean, I could totally see a studio exec thinking that.
Yeah.
But the people who made the movie, like Todd Phillips and all them, like they wanted to make a movie, and man, it was so good. Like, and like it. I don't know if the DC universe doesn't necessarily. When I say DC universe, I don't mean like they should extend from this movie, which they kind of could. And if you see it, you'll see why. But like, if they go for this like highbrow film thing for like not all of them, but you know, if they did like a highbrow, well, they already did a highbrow like ish Batman film, like Dark Knight stuff.
Yeah.
And if they did like this for like the rest of the DC universe, I could see it going like really good because like, you know, Marvel's kind of known as like the candy of movies and stuff. Like really good. There's this. I don't know, did you see Martin Scorsese? Kind of like.
Yeah, that's one of the things we're going to get into this week.
Okay. Well, I guess
because he also produced that. Didn't he co-produce the Joker?
Oh, he did.
I'm pretty positive that Scorsese co-produced it.
Funny because I'm like, I know that the Marvel movies are different, but like it's still a comic book movie, you know. I know that Todd Phillips said he was like heavily inspired by him because it's based on like Taxi Driver and the King of Comedy. Not based on. It's like they took that approach. And Robert De Niro's in Joker and King of Comedy.
Oh, I didn't know he was in the Joker.
Oh yeah. So in the Joker, he plays Murray. I can't remember his last name. He's basically like Johnny Carson.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the movie, you assume it takes place in 1981, 82 because they reference the trash pileups in like the New York area, even though it's Gotham.
Yeah.
And it's very like 80s based, like no one's carrying around cell phones, and like strip clubs are like a little bit more prominent in like that vibe and stuff. But anyway, like I don't know, it was if DC starts taking these like standalone highbrow like kind of character dives, I think it could go really well because like I went to Joker because I was just curious, and then also when all the reviews came back, I'm like, well, I got to see if I agree or not. And I was just like the whole time. So this is how good it was for me. You know, like with any kind of art, you want to get like a reaction out of somebody. Every time like a big moment happened in the movie, which was several times, especially towards the end, everyone reacted and completely differently because I think you're just confused. You don't know what to do. Like there was one time where like I was shocked. I was like, oh my God. Vince laughed and some other person like cried. Like it was just like it happens so instantly and like heavily that like the first thing on the top of your head, even if it's not appropriate, comes out, which is kind of funny because that's
like similar to Rambo, where we're like, whoa! So this is like a dude getting like split his chest open.
Kind of that one. I think like all the reactions lean more towards like shock and like grossed out and stuff.
Yeah.
This was just so many varied emotions, but it's kind of appropriate too because he's very rarely referred to as the Joker in this movie, but his name is Arthur Fleck. Which someone pointed out, like, is it supposed to be like a joke of like a Fleck, like Affleck, or and, you know? But I guess that's not a Joker's name in any existing property. So Arthur has I think this is pretty well known, but Arthur has a real life affliction where he laughs as an emotional response to inappropriate situations.
Right.
And apparently Joaquin Phoenix like was around people with that actual condition.
Yeah.
To like, and so that's kind of part of it. But like, even that setup makes the movie sound like it's gonna be kind of convoluted. You know, like, oh, they're gonna do that, but
that's so weird because there's so many different like origin stories of the Joker, and they're all like slightly different. Like some of them kind of go back to like I think it's Batman #1 where they go back to it and kind of talk about the Red Hood, like he was the Red Hood originally, and it was just it's weird. And then there's the one in The Killing Joke, which kind of everybody kind of thinks it feels like is the original one, and there's no, I don't know, there's no
then you have
real
Jason Leto is the new one.
You're talking movies. I mean, he'd even supposedly be one of those Jokers. Even in the newer comics, like there's supposed to be like 3 different Jokers, but you don't know, like, are they from the same universe? Or you have no idea. So like these Jokers was kind of even talked about possibly being immortal, kind of like similar to Vandal Savage or something, to where Ra's al Ghul.
is he sure you with the spoiled?
No, I mean it's totally 100% fine with it because like my problem. Like, I want to see it, and then I also don't want to see it. I don't want to see it because I don't like origin stories. I just don't. I feel like it's a lazy way to write something. Like, it's like, hey, guess what? We're going to just tell you exactly what happened. As opposed to, like, over the length of a big story, you slowly reveal what happens.
So, this will be the first minor spoiler. And if you haven't seen Joker yet and you want to see it and you want to experience the whole thing, although, trigger warning, if you have any sort of, like... triggering from mental disability or anxiety or anything like that, or you're heavily affected by like traumatic like experiences in movies, you probably shouldn't see it.
Or Rambo.
Yeah. But I think this is even worse than Rambo as far as like trauma.
It was so based in reality. Like, it made you really believe that this person's out there and that he exists.
So this is the first minor spoiler, and we'll ramp up the spoilers from here. I don't feel like it's an origin story. That's the biggest surprise to me, is it wasn't an origin. I know that all of the promos like kind of paint it to be like that, but really,
he did become to a place of origin.
So,
just look at Vince like okay,
but it's not an origin story.
So this is where it's going to get kind of like more into like the spoiler territory. So the movie, by the time it ends, you're not actually sure if he's the Joker. Like, the entire movie he's referred to as Arthur Fleck. They are in Gotham. There's slight mentions of different characters in the DC universe, but they're not really. The only one that's like kind of heavily influenced in it is you hear about Thomas Wayne a lot.
Yeah,
because he's running for mayor and he's rich. This feels like not necessarily Trump himself, but like a rich political figure, kind of in power or going towards power that isn't really a politician going to it. So I think Trump is like the closest analogy we have to it, but this is kind of painting like there might be more of this in the future, you know, like, so there's rich people. So there's the only divide in the movie. There's no like racial things or anything. The divide is like the wealthy and the poor.
Yeah.
And it's in a world where like there's virtually no middle class, which sounds very familiar right now. And so Arthur is kind of you like watch the entire movie, like the tension slowly build as the world is just awful to him, mainly because he has this mental disability.
Yeah, where he laughs instead of what he's actually feeling.
So like, and he also doesn't have like you know, like when people criticize like Michael Jackson, like, why does he act like that way, blah, blah, blah. But also he was a star from the time he was like 5 or something like that, you know? So not that Arthur wasn't a celebrity, but like you could tell he didn't have like a normal upbringing because of various circumstances. Like he was raised by a single mother. Like you saw in the trailers, he was taking care of his mom. It was a very loving relationship.
Oh, really? I thought it was supposed to be somewhat abusive one.
That's what they reveal later.
Oh, okay.
So in the movie, like in the trailers, they show him like bathing his mom, and they have like a close relationship and stuff. His whole life revolves around working a day job as like a for hire clown, like, you know, twirling signs or going to kids' birthday parties and stuff, and going home to his mom, take care of her until she goes to sleep, and he wakes up and does it all over again.
Right.
But you know, the opening scene, you see that thing that's in the trailer where he's spinning the sign, those kids like mug him.
Yeah.
And he didn't do anything. In fact, like later in the movie, his boss tells him he has to pay for the sign because he doesn't believe that some kids would steal it, because they're like, why would they do that? He's like, even other people in the universe can't believe that people would just be awful to be awful. And then like he's on a like he was on a bus at one point. This little kid, you know, was like a toddler
sitting in front of him.
Yeah, he's like staring at him like a kid. You know, that happens all the time. Like
little kid and his mother.
But the mom's not paying attention. She's looking forward, and the little kid's just like people watching.
Turned around on his chair, looking at him
and just staring at him. And so Arthur starts. He's not in his makeup, but he's just trying to like make funny faces and stuff.
Trying to make the kid smile.
And so the mom like notices, and she accuses him. You know, she's like, "Please stop bothering my kid." It's like, well, he didn't try to defend himself too much. He was like, "Oh, sorry," you know. And then he starts laughing, and that's the first time you see like that affliction kind of happen.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Is something funny?" And then while he's like cracking up, he hands her the card that's like explains his condition. That like, please give this card back. Blah blah. Like, I laugh at inappropriate times and stuff. So he probably got like embarrassed, and that triggered like the laughing or something. I don't know. So that kind of thing just like it keeps happening, and then it's
like every time he gets sad, he starts laughing out,
and he's sad a lot
because you see the pain in the laughter. It's great.
Oh yeah, well that's the thing is like because you can tell he's trying to cry, but he like his body, like his mind and his heart like wants to cry, but his body's like laughing.
His brain's all twisted up.
That was the brilliance in Joaquin Phoenix's acting.
You find out why at the end too, why he like ended up with stuff like that, and that was another.
But that was the brilliance in Joaquin Phoenix's acting, is like to show like that thing. Like I don't know, they never said it. Brilliant. Like you could just like, kind of see it. And then you find out his coworkers are kind of like conspiring against him just because they think he's weird. It kind of, in a serious way, goes back to Dane Cook's joke about being nice to that one guy nobody talks to, because like everybody's picking on him. Like, this is a weirdo. In fact, early on in the film, one of his coworkers, who's another for hire clown, like gives him a gun because he says he needs to take care of himself since he got mugged. Later, you find out the guy was trying to set him up to get fired because you're not supposed to have guns at work as a clown. He's at a children's hospital. He starts dancing, and then the gun falls out of his pants in front of a bunch of children in the hospital. He gets fired. And then, but they find out, then the guy that gave it to him, like, tells his boss that, like, Arthur was trying to buy it from him or something there. So everybody's, like, conspiring against him and stuff. But it's not, it's weird because it's a lot, but it feels believable because I think everybody can think of somebody that gets picked on a little bit more than everybody else, you know?
That's what made it so real. It made you feel bad for this psycho.
Yeah, well, I'll agree with Zazie or Zazie Beats.
I've heard Zazie. I don't know.
Yeah, I heard somebody say Zazie, and I was like, I don't know. Okay,
that's the French way.
So she had said during some promo that like you should be sympathetic of the character's situation, not the character. He does do a lot of bad things.
Yeah.
Later in the movie, you find out that his mother has been writing to Thomas Wayne every day because she used to work for him like 30 years ago.
Oh, okay.
And they're in a bad situation, so she thinks he's going to bail her out because he's a good man, and if he knew,
he wouldn't let us live this way.
Yeah. And then, big spoiler, later on in the movie, Arthur opens up one of the letters because he's never read them, I guess.
Yeah.
And finds out that Thomas Wayne's his father. He's like an illegitimate child. And so that's why she's writing him. And, you know, it's like, this is your child, like he needs meds, all this stuff, you know. And then Thomas Wayne's like ignoring him and stuff. Now, this is where it splits off into several different like kind of not timelines, but like possibilities. The whole movie, because you know how like one of the best things about Joker's origin stories is multiple choice.
Yeah, it's all over the place. Not to mention like DC Comics in general is all over the place. I even this last week read Crisis on Infinite Earths, which I rarely ever read anything DC. And so I was like, you know what? This new CW crap's coming out. I actually want to read this comic because it's apparently it's amazing and it was really good. But yeah, it was their whole continuity is just bonkers.
So they continued like the multiple choice here because they don't give you any finite answers. It kind of presents
whether he's actual son or
well. So then he goes to a showing of Modern Times by Charlie Chaplin that Thomas Wayne's attending and like sneaks in as a bellhop and then like kind of confronts. He's not violent at first. He just wants to see his dad. He confronts Thomas Wayne in the bathroom, and then Thomas kind of gets like a little aggressive because he's like, "Oh, you're that woman. She's crazy. Like she was clinical, so we had to like fire her and also you didn't know that you were adopted.
Yeah,
like,
she made up this story that I was your father, but you were adopted.
So then you're like, what?
What's
happening?
real?
Yeah.
And then fast forward, because here's the thing. They introduce these little things throughout the movie, and then they kind of come back to him. So they come back to that. He's at Arkham Asylum, or I guess it's State Hospital in this case, to look up records, and finds out that not only was Thomas Wayne telling the truth, like she was committed to the asylum.
That was her file. Yeah,
she abused him, or like let her boyfriend at the time abuse him. The kid was found like chained to a radiator and like beaten near to death, which they kind of imply is why he has a lot of the disabilities he has now.
Right.
But Thomas Wayne's a very powerful man. They don't make it clear if he doctored records either.
Yeah.
If he was a love child and he like just...
It could have all been fake documents.
That never gets resolved. But that's the feeling that Arthur has, you know?
There is a split story of like, I can't remember exactly how it went, but Joker's aunt being like crazy, and like whenever he's bad, she like bleaches his skin. Like as like a punishment. That's really weird.
Well,
Wow.
and I didn't know this. Maybe you did, but you know in the trailer when he like walks up to that little kid and like makes him smile and stuff. That's Bruce
supposed
Wayne.
to be Bruce
That's
Wayne.
Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, okay.
And then Alfred comes up, but they're all young, you know.
Yeah.
Which that for me at the time, like at that moment in the movie, like presented problems. I was like, Joaquin Phoenix has to be like in his like late 30s, early 40s, and then Bruce Wayne's like
less than 10.
like yeah. But then as the movie kind of goes along, okay, so then he has like this relationship with Zazie Beetz character. I forget what her name is in the movie. That doesn't fit the rest of the movie at all. It almost feels like a whole separate movie. Like he's a different person. And then you kind of figure out that she's the barometer for what's real in the movie and what's in his head. Because they start diverting into like fantasies without any transitions.
Right.
And so like
You're still questioning what's real, what's not.
like I need to go see it again because I think that they put her in there so when she's there,
You know it's fake.
yeah. Besides the very first time they met, because like there's times where she's in the hospital with him, and like when his mom's in the hospital,
It's a park bench scene, something like that.
also they're on dates and stuff, and he's confident, he's kind of witty and stuff, and that's not
Yeah, it's not him.
how he's always been, you know.
Does he ever like try to be a stand-up comic?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the whole
Okay.
time he's trying to be a stand-up comedian.
Oh, okay.
You do see
That's a little bit like The Killing Joke.
So you do see one of his stand-up routines at a place called Pogo's, which I guess was a reference to the killer clown that inspired It. It was
Okay.
Pogo the clown,
yeah.
who like killed all his kids and stuff. So he does his routine, but he can't stop laughing because he's nervous. But they play the thing out that the audience feels like it's endearing, and Zazie Beetz is there, and she's like, "Oh, he's cute," you know. But then later, so they establish early on in the movie that Robert De Niro's late night show is like
Murray.
his favorite thing. Murray Franklin, that's what his name is.
It's what they watch every night, him and his
Him and
mother.
his mom, it's their tradition. He gets home in time for them to watch that together, and he idolizes him. He even has a fantasy where Murray like calls him out of a crowd because of his weird laugh, calls him a son and everything. So Murray, I don't know how this actually worked because in the 80s, like the closest thing we had to viral videos was America's Funniest Home Videos.
Yeah.
So apparently there was video taken at this club of his set, so you actually get to see it from like the real lens.
Yeah, Pogos.
And Murray Franklin shows it on his show because it was so awful, and then it kind of shatters Arthur's reality because that's when Zazie Beetz like leaves the room. Everything gets weird, you know, stuff. He finds out that he's adopted and stuff. He kills his mother.
Oh,
like,
crazy.
Like he just goes on a spree because you could tell that moment he loses everything. Both his father figures, Thomas Wayne, Murray Franklin, his mother's a liar, you know, like, or maybe he never had a girlfriend, like
Crazy.
And so that's the moment he kind of becomes like quote unquote like the Joker because it doesn't matter. He's just gonna do what he wants to do, you know.
It's like an extra break.
So I won't go too much into the details. We've talked a lot of time about it, but this. So he ends up getting invited on the show, and biggest spoiler for the movie here. The whole time they implied that he's going to like off himself on the show, and when he gets there, he confesses to murdering the 3 people in the subway that you see in the trailer. Oh, speaking of, our friend Ben Warhite was one of the guys on there. I didn't notice that in the trailer, and then we were in the movie. And I was like,
I think I know that
that's
guy.
Ben. And I looked it up, and it was. So I just wrote on his Facebook like, "Hey, good,
Yeah.
spotted you." Anyway, he confesses to murdering these 3 people and like everybody else, and then he just turns around and shoots Murray in the face on live television. and it incites like a riot across.
It was poetic though, like all the lead up to the shot was very poetic.
So like Gotham goes into like a frenzy. They'd already kind of been, because after the subway murders, he kind of became a folk hero because everybody hates the rich people.
Yeah.
So because Thomas Wayne at some point had called poor people clowns, so they all take this moniker of like
The clown face.
Yeah. And so that already kind of happens, but once he kills Murray on live television, the entire city, everyone becomes Jokers. And the reason they coin it Joker is because like Murray in a throwaway comment says something like look at this Joker, you know? So they kind of refer to that. But like even Murray is so throwaway that Murray doesn't even remember saying it. So the rest of the movie, you start seeing like Joker activity happening all over the city, and it just keeps elevating. And so like, I'm not even sure if Arthur is supposed to be the original Joker. I just think it was an event that sparked maybe what becomes the Joker in this universe or something, you know?
It feels like they're like using little bits of like several of the different origins. Was there anything with Red Hood?
No.
Did he ever get framed for like a robbery or anything?
He gets framed, but not like a robbery. Like, I don't remember a Red Hood thing in there. There is a small Bruce Wayne thing in the middle of the riots. Like the Wayne family's in the movie theater and they're escaping, and then that's when the key scene happens because one of the clowns does that.
You see the pearls and everything.
Oh, nice. So it's like classic. Okay.
But like at the same time, then it cut after this whole thing happens. You think that's going to be the end because he's like in the middle of a burning city, you know, like there's like millions, like no, thousands of Jokers running around and stuff. You think like, this would be the end. And then it cuts to him like in an insane asylum talking to a social worker. And you're like,
is it Harley Quinn?
No. Well, I don't know. I don't think so. But then you're like, was this whole thing in his head or was this section? Because he was clearly arrested after all this.
The whole time you're still thinking like, what was real?
What was real?
Did he shoot Murray in the face, or was that another thing in his head?
And I watched several theory videos afterwards, and like everyone disagrees on it. Some people are like, well, clearly he killed him. What happened afterwards might be different. I was like, well, he didn't because she wasn't there. Blah blah. Like it was. I don't know. It was crazy and
made for such a great movie. Holy crap!
But then he's talking to the social worker, and then like the closing shot is him like walking down a hallway. But as he's stepping, there's like blood footprints. So it's just like he like killed the social worker, like and so it's just like chaos. But that's why I don't think it's an origin story necessarily. I don't even think that he's the Joker. It just seems like it was a movie about like a person that like. So there's another possibility, the way they presented it, and maybe if you see it, you can see what you think. But like, because that ending made it, there's several points in the movie where like, I don't know what point was real up until now, including the ending. So to me, it left it open that the Joker might actually exist in this universe. And that was his way of dealing with it. He inserted himself into the story. Because for all we know, he never left the insane asylum. Like,
it could just be another story that he tells.
Yeah,
like when in the Dark Knight one, where he just keeps saying, how I got these scars, and it's just a different story every time.
So like I don't think he's a Joker. I think that might be the most sure, but I don't know because like if they do want to connect the universe, which I hope they don't, but it has made so much money that they might try.
Yeah,
I think they said it's the highest October opening in history or something like that.
Yeah, it beat out. I love how they were like smashing, and I think it beat out Venom by like maybe 20 million or something. It's like it smashed it. Like, well, I mean, it did a little bit better.
Was Venom October as well?
Yeah, it's the same.
Was that a year ago?
Yeah.
Holy moly!
Yeah, it was a year ago.
Because Venom used to be the one that was the best October whatever.
Oh my!
So, yeah.
You know, it's funny to me. That this was different than I thought it was going to be similar to Venom because it was like you had said before like. They're trying to use the properties they have and make some money. I feel like I don't know, just based on like the things I heard from like the director and the writers and stuff, they wanted to make this movie and they took the opportunity to be able to have a big budget to make an artistic movie.
Yeah.
So maybe the suits were like, oh yeah, this is a cash grab. But I think the intention to make the movies being made and the way they did it wasn't.
Yeah.
You could tell they were looking for like an award for this.
Because Venom was clearly like, I don't think it's a good movie. I still got it because I think it's a good like in the background while I'm working on other stuff movie. But like Joker, man, like it's so emotionally effective.
Yeah,
like it's crazy.
From what I've gathered from some of the like the reviews that I kind of looked at, it seemed like everybody pretty much likes it. It's doing pretty well. It could have been just another movie that's not the Joker. Like it could have been what was that movie with Kevin Spacey in it?
Oh, Usual Suspects?
Yes, Usual Suspects. I feel like it could have been something like that. It could have been like, this guy is crazy, and you just don't know, and it just not the Joker.
I don't think so, only because if they didn't say it was a Joker, I think I'd have been like, are they copying the Joker? Because there's so many like weird nuances about him, you know, that like was still, because the chaos, it is very close to Heath Ledger's Joker, where he's just like, what's the line? He just likes to see the world burn. You know?
I just want to see the world burn or whatever.
Like, I think to me it was like you see what happens to a person when everyone in their lives puts them to a point where they have no reason for anything, you know,
like at their wit's end.
Or what's the quote from Killing Joke? Like everybody's just like one bad day away from like being insane or something like that. But this is like his whole life, you know. And then finally the moment, like, you know, he loses everything. When I say loses everything, not even in the same way that usually, you know, you see like Deadpool or Daredevil and stuff, and they lose everything. Like this guy, like he doesn't have anything to live for, you know, like in a very real sense. But I think going in, I was thinking, well, maybe if it is a good movie, it'll probably be a movie that didn't have to be Joker. And I'm like, if it was, then I'd have been like, this is a lot like the Joker. You know, like,
It was too intertwined to not be like a couldn't have been a standalone, like it was just Arthur Flick or whatever, and that was the character, you know what I mean? The hook was that it was tied into the Joker thing, but it was also portrayed and painted as like he was one of the first to start that like revolution of Jokers.
So that's the part I forgot to like kind of mention, is that subway scene. Those guys you see in the trailer like harass him, and then that gun that he had in the previous scenes, he just kind of gut reaction, he shoots them. He shoots two of them, and then one of them, our friend Ben, tries to get away, and then he shoots him in the like not in the subway car, but in the subway, and then runs away, and all the witnesses only see like a clown,
like a clown face,
and so that story becomes like because those three guys are Wall Street like guys or whatever.
Wall Street guys.
So I guess they're like, they imply that they're employees of the Wayne family or something.
Right. Oh yeah.
And so the whole like the news and everything is just kind of like, you know, fuck the rich, kill the rich or whatever, which is another thing that makes you think that this might be in his head, because what news headline says kill the rich and stuff. But it kind of sets off this thing where like the grand public is just like, yeah, the 1% is the 1% and we're the 99, you know, like let's take over.
It was a great interpretation of like what it would be like to live in the life of someone who had this condition, you know. And that's the weird part, because when I all the way through the movie, I just felt like conflicted. Like I was like, I don't know if I should care about this person or not. Like the story and the way they make it feel is like you're feeling for this person, but in the back of your head, you're like, this dude's nuts. He's gonna kill these people. And then you see him kill the people.
But like,
I didn't see the mom thing coming though.
Me neither. Or the Thomas Wayne. There's several things that I was like,
I saw the other murders coming, like not the subway stuff either. Well, I guess I saw that coming.
You see some other things he kind of gets revenge on, which
is it incredibly gory?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not as bad as Rambo.
Okay. So he's not like pulling out people's eyeballs and other things.
Things are just kind of
his heart, his hand still makes me laugh.
That's so hilarious.
Things are just kind of like sudden.
Yeah.
There's one point where he kills the coworker that gave him the gun. But another coworker's with him, and the other coworker's the only one that was nice to him. So it's funny. It's kind of like that Dane Cook thing. He's like, "Thanks for the candy," you know. Like he like kills him in his house, and the other guy is like crying. He's like, "Oh my god, oh my god!" And he's a little person, so he can't read. Like, so Arthur's like, "You can leave. I'm not going to do anything to you. You're the only one that's nice to me." So he tries to leave, but he can't reach the lock. And so like Arthur's like messing. Arthur's like messing with him. He goes, "Ugh." And he's like, "Ah!" He starts crying. He's like, "Oh, okay, sorry." And then he can't get the lock. He's like, he gets the lock for him the whole time. The guy's like, like.
Yeah, there's so many different emotions.
Does he kill him?
No,
he lets him go. But it's just like,
you don't know.
Well, no. I mean, like he I feel like was the proxy for the audience. It was like, why did you do that?
He just saw this guy get murdered. Yeah,
what did he do? Did he just like stick a pen in his eye or something?
He puts, before he opened the door to say hi to the two fellas, he put scissors in his back pocket.
That's right.
Ooh, ouch.
And then he just stabbed the guy through the eye, under the neck.
He let them come in, and they both come in, and they talk to him about like your mom died. You know, we're just making sure you're all right. But he had already snapped at that point of the movie. So he was just looking at the big guy, this is the one who was trying to frame him for the gun thing. So he knew he was going to kill the big dude. as soon as he let him in. And then the little guy, he just, after he kills the big dude, he's just like, no, you can leave. Like, you're the only one who's nice to me. And then he's trying to leave, and he's like, I can't open the door. It was hilarious. It finally lets him go through the door, and then he just goes back to like being his crazy self.
And that's when you see like him like dancing down the stairs that you see in the thing
He's
and
like
everything.
free finally, of all this.
So I saw this afterwards from they had an interview with Todd Phillips on Vanity Fair, I think. So he did something that was odd because he says he feels like music is so important in films, and I actually, as a musician, like really love this. He had the composer score the entire film from the screenplay before they shot anything.
Oh, weird.
And then they had the soundtrack playing on loop as they were filming stuff because he said he wanted it to soak into everyone's performances, like the actors, the cameraman. He wanted everyone to feel
like a beat.
Yeah.
So
like,
then did they do voiceover for everything then?
I don't
It's
know.
all leaking into everybody's mics.
Well,
don't
there's
know.
these long like shots of him dancing.
So maybe that's
and
part
it
of
is
like
just
what's
the
there.
music, you know.
And also like I don't know if they're doing dialogue, if they necessarily play it, or if they
That's true.
you know,
It's just music because
pause.
you see all the people on the bus. You know, they're just on the bus.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about dialogue scenes. I wonder if it's
Yeah.
like playing up until the point they record or
Like
something.
cut it before the dialogue.
They just want everybody to like live in the
That's a
sonic.
great idea, though.
Yeah.
I mean, like, as a musician or whatever, you want everybody to be in the same room when they're recording like a band because everybody kind of moves and feels off of each other. Everybody nowadays kind of like, let's do the drums just first, and it's just click,
We're all
click,
trying
click.
to play to.
Everybody
the next
plays to
thing.
click trick. Yeah,
I remember
Click
Josh
track.
and I went to
Click, click,
college
click,
for
click,
music together, and I think it was there I learned from our professor, Dr. Johnson. I didn't know this before because we were working on something, and he was like, "Oh yeah, you're gonna get a picture, and then you're gonna score a picture." And I was like, "What? Why would I do that?" And then that's the first time I learned that that's how it worked. And now, of course, it's standard. Like we know because Vince and I've done stuff for sync and stuff like that.
Yeah.
where like we have a picture and we have to like make the music work with the picture. And that's a norm, but like I still don't. It feels weird because like music is based in like meter for the most part. It's not necessarily picture, so like
Yeah.
not that it has to always be that way, but the fact that it's like a norm to set music that's supposed to be into a tempo or something to a picture that's not necessarily is like a weird thing to me, Like
Yeah, and what if they come back with like, we want to extend this scene or add this or that? Then
Yeah.
like, what do you do?
we have a friend that scores
If you
like
extend the track, yeah.
we have a friend that scores like big Hollywood movies and stuff. And the only reason I won't say his name here is because he had a bad experience with a recent blockbuster where that happened. It broke him. Like there was a good 3 months he didn't work. He was broke. I didn't think he was going to do music
He
anymore.
turned into the Joker and they made a movie about him.
Because they did this movie and like every time they did an edit, they're like, you're gonna have to rescore this whole thing. We're gonna go back and redo the orchestra. And it's like, I don't know
How many times did he say he had to redo it?
Yeah, every time they had to redo something like a smallest thing, they had to pull a 100-piece orchestra back in.
Yeah.
And he had to rescore, conduct, stuff. And he just broke him. And then they ended up not using any of it and rehiring somebody else.
Oh.
But he still got paid. But it was just like
Yeah.
it was like a year or two of his life of redoing things over and over.
Ooh, and that's like Kevin Smith. I guess he was doing a bunch of stuff for Prince. For Prince.
yeah, the documentary.
A documentary for Prince, and they hired him in, and I guess they paid him and everything for it. But it's like, this is gonna be crazy when this releases, and the lady that's in charge is like, this is not gonna release.
yeah, this is
It's
for
going to go in
him.
the vault.
Well, now it might because apparently all the vault stuff is just being slowly released.
maybe.
I might be wrong about this, but I think in one of the like Kevin Smith stand-up DVDs, he said something when he was telling that story. He said something to the effect of like, okay, like we're gonna film here and here and here, and then Prince said something like, oh, don't worry about that. We'll use the cameras that are already installed. He's like, what?
He's like, camera.
They're like everywhere, and then he's worried that they're in the bathroom. I think.
Yeah.
They were. He had cameras everywhere.
Dang, that's creepy.
The moral of the story is Prince was the Joker. He also did the Bat Dance, so that's
I can't
appropriate.
believe that. There was an entire album Prince did for that Batman movie. Mm-hmm. So cool. But yeah, guys, go see The Joker if you haven't seen The Joker.
unless any of what we just talked about is triggering. Well, actually, if you've heard it now, it's probably spoiled.
If you know going in, it's rated R, and it's about a guy named the Joker.
Yeah.
Going into this.
Did you see all the things like the warnings like do not bring your kids to this movie? But
It's for stupid people. It's for
saw-
people that want to complain.
Phil DeFranco like pulled up some bad reviews of the Joker and for like major papers and stuff, and he was like, "This just really surprised me, like what the criticisms are." And it's like this one big reviewer was like, it made me feel uneasy or sad, and he was like, okay, what else were you expecting from a movie about a psychotic clown?
Exactly.
That's rated R, you know?
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about, now that we've basically explained the entire movie, like who was our favorite Jokers, or is there one? Can you rank them at all? Like, would you rank the Jokers? Because right now we know 4 film Jokers, right?
You know, it's tough because I can't think of like one I didn't like. You know what I mean?
They
Like,
all had their different.
I
things.
could definitely think of a cartoon one I didn't like. There was I think it's The Batman, I think was a while ago. And there was kind of more of like, they made it like almost like a Rastafarian Joker.
Oh, I didn't see that one.
Like it. It's like,
we're also going to say like my knowledge is limited to the films and the 90s cartoons.
Yeah.
and
Because who do we have? We have the first Joker. Was
Cesar Romero.
Yeah.
Unless there was there
That's
another older
television.
movie?
That was television, though, right?
Well, they
Cesar
had
Romero.
they had a Batman movie out of it, so I don't know.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's right. And then Jack Nicholson, right?
Jack Nicholson's probably the one I remember the first.
And
Yeah.
he was like the movie Joker.
Yeah.
He felt like the most of like you were saying, Rod.
I've said this on the other like live streams and stuff. Like,
He's
in my
a movie
head,
bad guy.
Jack Nicholson's Joker was like the movie villain. And then Heath Ledger, when that came out, I was like, oh, I'm scared that he actually was like on the streets. And then after I saw Joaquin Phoenix, I was like, take that back. Heath Ledger is also a movie villain.
Yeah.
Well, I'm afraid Joaquin Phoenix is sitting in front of me in the movie theater, like that Joker.
Yeah.
Mark Hamill was a great Joker.
I would
though.
say if you could include cartoons, Mark Hamill's would definitely be the best.
Mark Hamill. I just recently saw Batman Ninja, and that Joker was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
It'd be funny if he was Rastafarian. Like, I don't understand the tone of this
Oh
film.
gosh, I'd have to show you to you. Actually, to be honest, like it's really ridiculous.
Yeah, that sounds crazy.
You know what? When I say there's a Joker I don't like.
Yeah.
I didn't have enough of Jared Leto's Joker to know. My gut tells me I wouldn't have liked him.
I heard some weird stuff about Jared Leto too. Like he would like leave dead animals at people's houses. And
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
That's
that
what
looks
it
like a
looks like.
Scooby Doo villain.
It looks a little more like Scooby Doo.
You know what? I did see that cartoon with that Joker. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which one was it again? It was
The Batman,
The
I believe.
Batman,
Yeah,
that's right.
It was a cartoon a little while ago, probably
That's-
5 years ago,
it's
6
funny.
years ago.
Yeah, it's so weird. They would make him like that Joker.
Yeah.
It's a weird choice for that.
I think, like, I don't know. Heath Ledger's Joker, I think, was the first time I saw it, like, dark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, they were allowed to be dark at that point in time. I feel like Batman started off really, really dark with even in the comics. The very first comic is really it's dark, even with the Joker. In fact, with the comics kind of leading up to the comic code authority thing coming in, they kind of after that they stopped using the Joker unless he was just being silly. That's why kind of the Cesar Romero Joker is very laughy, silly. But you had Jack Nicholson's one where it's really dark, and then beyond that, everything just gets goofy.
Yeah.
So
Out there.
See, Jack Nicholson, even though he was kind of like, what's the word, villainous, or like, I don't know, he was a little bit,
it's more mobster-ish.
yeah. But then he had that drug that made people smile and stuff. That was creepy.
But that's
like,
classic. That's like original. That's from the very first
Laughing
Joker.
gas.
Yeah.
that's the Joker that I remember. This was burned into my memory.
Yeah. And as a kid, that show that creeped me out as a kid, but I couldn't stop watching it. It was so good.
But then the Heath Ledger Joker showed me like what was like a dark Joker.
Yeah.
and
And it wasn't like a made up thing, like, laughing gas. I mean, laughing gas is real, but he was just blowing up crap and killing people.
It was just different. I guess that's the core of the Joker's character is what we like is like it's multiple choice. Like
We didn't see a gang or people, like in the first one with Nicholson, you saw like his gang or the night when Batman would drive through like the alleys and people would jump out and he'd have to fight that night gang that had all the paint that would glow in the dark at night. Remember all those scenes? I forget which Batman that was. It might have been Batman and Robin, actually. And I guess Joker, that was Riddler that was in that one. Riddler and Two-Face. So that was what, Batman Forever?
That's Batman Forever, yeah.
Got a whole different character now,
That's-
Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
Oh, that movie was so goofy. That's that whole Schumacher thing, which is funny. You go back and take a look at it. And there's tons of little like documentaries of people like you realize that Schumacher and everybody else just didn't understand Batman at all, and it's just being like, oh, Batman, he does this and fights crime and whatever. They obviously drawing more off of the like 60s.
Was it part of the Dark
West.
Knight series where Two-Face dies and then there's Bane and I guess Joker was in that.
Bane
too.
is definitely in that.
What was that?
Batman and Robin. George Clooney was the Bane one.
The newer Bane one.
Oh, you know,
Yeah,
you're talking about
it-
Dark Knight Rises.
That's what
the
it
third
was.
one.
Was that with Joker was in there too?
No, it just had Tom Hardy as Bane.
Because the Heath Ledger Joker, that was with Kristen Bale as Batman.
Yeah,
Yeah, those Dark
that's the Dark Knight
series.
Yeah, that's the Dark Knight.
Trying to remember all this now because there's so many Batman movies.
Yeah.
It gets all like diluted in my head.
I think the only of the live action Jokers that I'm not as familiar with is the Cesar Romero one because I remember as a kid watching that, but it was like bam pow all that stuff, you know. And I remember like the Catwoman and stuff like more as a villain,
Which is
in
funny
there.
because there's 3 different Catwomans
Yeah,
in that
right.
show.
I remember
Eartha Kitt being one of them.
Eartha Kitt was
Joker and Penguin. I just remember very vividly from that show.
Eartha Kitt was my favorite because she felt like she had that purr.
She did. She had like the funny, like the way she'd say things.
Yeah.
She was my favorite too, just because of the way she acted. Everybody else seemed like they were kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah, it was kind
of
Well, I forget who
Julie Newmar, I think is the other
Julie
name.
Newmar.
Yeah.
We saw at LA Comic Con
Yes.
when we were with you. When your kids were waiting on Stan Lee. And remember she said something like, I got the gig because I started licking myself in the audition.
Oh yeah.
And we were like, that's a fun story, but a terrible story to tell like young girls acting right now how to get the gig, you know? Like,
She had to become the Catwoman. What was I going to say? Oh, the Riddler in the the Adam West TV show.
Yeah.
Was the most uncomfortable thing I've ever seen. I remember just watching it and being like, I don't like that dude.
You remember King Tut?
oh man.
I don't know.
It's
if I
so
remember
funny.
that.
I don't even think that he's a real villain. I think that he's just on the show, and
Was
it was like
King Tut?
he was just a comic or somebody from the day that they like threw him in there.
I just remember
I
how
love
cool.
that show so much. Like I just
Yeah.
remember sitting with my grandpa, and like it was just reruns, and he liked watching it for some weird reason, and because he's more like a sports fan.
Yeah.
And it's just funny. He'd sit there and watch it with me and laugh, and we'd watch that show, and it's just so goofy, and you didn't really
Yeah.
care. And that show actually kind of helped keep Batman from dying, because Batman
Yeah.
was almost on cancellation at one point in time, and the Joker wasn't really allowed during that Comics Authority thing, Comics Code thing, and he was allowed, but it was just you couldn't do anything very overtly violent or overtly sexual or anything like that. So yeah, I mean that show kind of carried it for a while.
And then Val Kilmer killed it.
It wasn't as George Clooney that killed it.
I think I can think
Yeah.
of, I don't know if it's necessarily my favorite Joker, but the Joker that I could phone in at any time
Yeah.
that I will watch anytime is the Lego Batman Joker.
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit of everything.
Isn't that Zach Galifianakis?
Is it?
I
Because
think so.
mostly because it finally points out like the weird like marriage Batman and Joker have, you know,
Oh,
because
yeah.
the whole time they play it off as like a relationship, but it kind of is.
Well,
like,
that's how it always has
Yeah.
been, especially since the Killing Joke.
like you know, and he's like he gets jealous of another villain and stuff. Like
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, that's
So funny. Mark Hamill, surely. would
Yeah,
be-
Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill, I think, are like
go
Batman
down in history
and
as the best Jokers
Yeah.
on the planet for sure. Yeah.
Batman and Joker.
But that's another thing. Hearing Mark Hamill's Joker laugh, hearing Joaquin Phoenix's Joker laugh.
Oh jeez,
There's
so
there's
comfortable.
there's this like very like it's almost like they're vibrating on the same frequency because it gives you that like
Chills.
goosebumps feeling. Yeah, when you hear it. So definitely, I would say because I still kind of think that I may be able to rank them in my head. I know it would be really hard for other people probably, but I think Joaquin Phoenix is my new favorite Joker, and
Yeah.
then it would be Heath Ledger, and then everybody else kind of just like under that.
I don't think he'd be able to surpass Heath Ledger or Jack Nicholson for me, just for the pure fact that it doesn't still, from what you've even told me, seems like a actual like in the realm Batman movie.
So
It
that's
seems
a-
like it's on the outskirts.
That's another thing too. Is I don't
like
I don't
Logan.
think I don't think Joaquin
Even that's even closer because you got the people that are involved.
I don't think Joaquin Phoenix's Joker is a functional villain. It was a story about a person, but
It's like a birth.
I don't think I don't feel like from this movie he continues on to become like an active villain.
Someone else does though
Yeah.
because of it. And I think that's why it just
Yeah.
like gives me that like oh
You
he
were
was
saying
like,
he's like 30 years older than the Batman too,
right.
though.
So he's like he was the birth of the idea, and then
well,
from then on
with the riots and stuff.
you get like new Jokers, you know?
I don't know. I think you guys never watched Gotham, right?
No,
no,
Okay,
yeah,
like-
there's twins in
That's
that,
how I
right?
felt like. Well, because they didn't know the same thing. Because like Joker was who knows who Joker really is in that show for a little while. But it's basically like villain porn, because it was like, hey, here's this villain and here's this villain and here's the introduction to this villain, and like all the time, like, you know, Bruce Wayne's like 10 and you're like, wait, these people are gonna be so old when he's fighting them, like it's ridiculous, like what the heck.
Like I know there's like a lot of like focus on the villains in DC, but I think that's what a lot of people wanted, because they're, you know, like it's funny, I just got done watching With Great Responsibility, because heads up, anybody who's watching this on YouTube has free movies now, and that's free on YouTube. But they were talking about how the way that Marvel and Stan Lee differentiated their characters from DC was that they were people, and DC were like,
they're gods, kind of.
Yeah, well, kind of. They were like, you know, it's kind of like He-Man is like the least interesting person in the story.
Yeah.
And everybody else is interesting. Skeletor is like the most interesting person. So like Superman in the original incarnation of Batman, all them, kind of like he's a cool action figure, but we don't know anything about the person. And then as history went along, writers started like adding story, you know? So like for the Joker to kind of get like a character study, I think it's cool. So I feel like we got a little bit of that with Dark Knight, you know? So like I would kind of love to see like a high brow version of like Wonder Woman and Aquaman, you know? Like I know that sounds ridiculous, but like I didn't think Joker was possible.
No, it doesn't sound ridiculous.
Because right now we have like the Fast and Furious version of Aquaman.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't know if you could really do an Aquaman like that. I don't know.
I mean,
it's an honor for the character. I agree with you.
Because the thing is, like, Marvel was able to delve into all their characters because there was already character, you know? Like, the thing in With Great Power is a documentary about Stan Lee, which didn't age well because it has interviews with Ryan Singer and stuff in it.
Oh.
But they were talking about, like, how the greatest, like, the thing that most kids loved about Spider-Man when they first debuted the cartoon show was that all the kids were like, Peter Parker's me, you know? And when he put the mask on, he was like anybody for the most part. Like, you know, I don't know. So like he had girl problems, you know, he was in high school and all that stuff. So,
or Batman's just a brooding old man.
And he's rich. He's like the furthest from like relatable.
Exactly. Well, that's definitely one of the biggest differentiations from Marvel and DC, at least back then, to where you kind of, Marvels were more like people that were given superpowers, as opposed to like, you know, people that, you know, were born or kind of like made gods because of these superpowers, kind of like looking down, like, oh, save all these people, as opposed to like in Marvel, they're like, I'm one of these people, I need to do the saving.
That's why I had such an emotional reaction to Wonder Woman when it first came out, because even though it's not nearly as deep, like dive deep into the character as Joker did, it was the first time I think in the DC movies that we dove into something like that. Maybe with the exception of maybe, I know Dark Knight got deep, but like this, it was like, I'm just used to Wonder Woman being like goofy Linda Carter, you know, spin around, lasso and all that stuff. But to see that little bit of her, like seeing the pain of the outside world and then wanting to save it, was like, oh, she cares about stuff.
Right.
You know, like I don't feel like Aquaman really cares about stuff. Like, like I don't feel like.
Well, to be honest, Aquaman, kind of like how Black Panther is more like just taking care of Wakanda. Aquaman in many iterations, is just like, I'm just caring about Atlantis.
Yeah, but even the movie, like I don't feel like that. And I'm not saying Jason Momoa is a bad actor, but like I don't connect with anything about his character besides maybe his family. You know, like
big burly sexy dude.
Aquapan is more of a real thing than his character as.
But it was still cool to watch, like seeing all the crazy special effects and stuff. Like that's fun to watch, but I don't feel like I related with any part of like Aquaman's like character.
Yeah,
made me want to like slam a beer and smack somebody in the ass.
Play some metal.
Yeah.
My man.
Hair man. My man. I feel like there's a guy in the DC universe. Gosh, my brain hurts so bad sometimes. Lobo.
Lobo, yeah.
So he's like this intergalactic kind of like bounty hunter dude, and he's always metal, and it's almost like Ghost Rider, where he has like this giant motorcycle. It's like an intergalactic motorcycle. He's ridiculous, beyond ridiculous. I really kind of feel like Momoa could have been him too.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Sure.
It's just hilarious. Have you ever seen him?
Huge gray
Ever
hair.
seen Lobo?
I think so. That sounds really familiar.
He's enormous, and he was a big story arc in was it Batman animated series? I think it might have been.
Yeah, he was in Batman the animated series, and in
oh yeah, I actually had that
Justice League.
I had that action figure. Yeah, that could definitely be Justin Momoa.
He's just like kind of metal. He almost looks like Kiss plus. Yeah. Just
like a wrestler.
Momoa, wrestler.
Yeah.
Just hilarious.
So that all going back to say, did we ever find out if Martin Scorsese co-produced Joker or not?
I don't know. Which is
his comments about. Let me pull up the actual quote.
okay. I wanted to see this because I've heard it's a really good movie. I didn't want to see it for like a few other reasons. I don't like origin stories where they're just like, this is how this happened, which what you're telling me now isn't exactly how this movie is, and a few other reasons. But what made me want to see this movie again was Martin Scorsese being like, well, what comic book movies are blah blah blah. Like, oh, he's joining the ranks of like all those other idiots who did Terminator and Titanic.
Oh, James Cameron.
Cameron, and even Spielberg, I think. Yeah. They were all complaining, like all these old men, like it's like that Simpsons image of the old man shakes hand
yell at cloud.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
yells at cloud. Like, come on, man! Just we love these, and everybody seems to be loving it. They're making money. Like, it's just why do you have to complain about movies?
Scorsese said, "I tried, but that's not cinema. Honestly, the closest I can think of them, as well made as they are, with actors doing the best they can under the circumstances, is theme parks. It isn't the cinema of human beings trying to convey emotional, psychological experiences to another human being." This is talking about MCU films in particular.
Yeah.
Which is so weird because, like,
I saw that meme where it was like, was that something you posted? Where it was like a picture of Wolf on Wall Street where DiCaprio's trying to get in between his wife's legs or whatever, and she puts her foot on his face. Remember that scene? I don't know if you guys saw that movie. That movie's freaking awesome. And he it's on the meme. It says MCU, and then it says real cinema on her.
Oh gosh.
So Samuel Jackson, like I had one of my favorite like responses where he said, "That's kind of like saying Bugs Bunny ain't funny."
Yeah.
Films are films. Everybody doesn't like his stuff either. I mean, we happen to, but everybody doesn't. There's a lot of Italian Americans that don't think he should be making films about them like that.
Oh.
Everybody's got an opinion. It's okay. It's not going to stop anyone from making movies. And then James Gunn said, Martin Scorsese is one of my 5 favorite living filmmakers. I was outraged when people picketed The Last Temptation of Christ without even seeing the film. And now I'm saddened that he's judging my films the same way. And then I think, what's the gal?
Karen Gillian. Yeah. She also said something
about that and stuff. And it's like, what an odd thing to say, because like I know, like I'd said before, like people consider MCU movies like the candy of like cinema or whatever, but like you can't say that it didn't convey like human experiences.
Yeah,
did it very well,
because that's the core of Marvel characters.
Guardians of the Galaxy was all
like human experiences.
Was that exactly?
Yeah. And the Marvel characters we just talked about earlier are more on like a human field than most of the DC ones. So it's kind of like you feel for those characters. Like there's a couple times in Endgame that I cried. I was just kind of like a couple tears down the side. I wasn't like bawling, but
like seeing Thor's journey throughout all the films. Like that's just one of the characters. And then in Endgame when he got to see his mother, like who? Oh, I watched a Vanity Fair video with the guys who wrote Endgame and Infinity War.
Yeah,
and they said that they were being handed like the treatments of the other films to write Endgame. And they were like, well, we got to Thor, and they were like, Taika Waititi was like, what we're doing with Thor? Like, no. And they flew up to Australia to catch up. Like, what are you doing? Like, and they were like, he lost his like brother, his father, his eye, like his city, like what does that do to a person?
What about
Scott? I lost it when Scott came in and saw his daughter.
Yeah,
like 5 years older. Like
well, Natasha and
Clint.
Yeah. Seeing them battle it out to see who dies.
Yeah.
Like you get to see their whole relationship right in front of your eyes.
That whole movie is like emotion. Like that whole last movie, because it's a culmination of 10 years. So it's just kind of, it's weird.
And even like the thought,
say that.
The thought of like half the people on Earth, or in the universe, but on Earth specifically, just disappearing and you not having control of who that is, having to deal with it, and then like return to some sort of normalcy, like, they alluded to some people like getting remarried and starting new families and stuff. Like how does that? What does that do to you?
Exactly.
And I think that's what we're gonna kind of gradually start exploring more of as the movies go along. Not a lot. I
imagine they'll kind of tune.
But we live in that world now.
Yeah.
Where like they acknowledge that like people flipped out for 5 years.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't get the Scorsese thing. Like I don't get the Spielberg and the who else was it?
Wait, did Spielberg say something too?
Yeah, he said something a while ago.
He made Transformers.
He didn't make Transformers. He co-produced Transformers.
But he was responsible for Transformers. Like he's the one that said that it should be like a boy in his car.
Yeah,
like,
I think he said something similar of like, don't quote me on this, but I think it was something like comic book movies will die out just like Westerns did. And it's like, they're not the same. Like
So westerns didn't really die out.
they did. There was like a specific period of time where they were just making westerns and westerns and westerns, and then to like people just got sick of westerns because they were just everywhere. But the thing is, like westerns are always in the same context. West, guns, gun tote, whatever. Like comic book movies aren't. Comic book movies are all over the place. There could be a comic book movie made in the West. Like it could be all over the place. So.
Yeah, there's like teen movies,
futuristic.
action.
It's kind of
Old
why I
people
loved
movies.
Logan, because it felt like a Western.
But comic book movies seem like the basis of like cinema. There's not very many differences to me if like an MCU movie and like Lord of the Rings. You set up the rules for the world and then you exist in it and explore it.
Yeah.
It seems like the basis of like what a movie or storytelling would be.
I mean, like
Luc Besson would be
Like-
he'd be so mad if you didn't write an entire Bible about your script.
am I going to take Endgame and say that it is better than Schindler's List? Like, okay, maybe not, but those are on two different like planes.
Yeah,
like it's just weird. That's what I see where he's kind of going with it. So they're like, okay, well, it's not like an art movie to where it's going to move you in certain different ways and things you didn't see. Like, but no, it's definitely got a lot of other things that are grounded in what we do in real life. So I don't understand.
I also wonder what he saw.
Or have you watched any of them?
Well, like he said he tried. Did he like jump in the middle of Infinity War, or like Endgame, or like the Ant-Man movie or something like?
Or did he watch like Batman and Robin like 20 years ago and be like, oh, I'm never watching something like that again?
Well, supposedly this was in context of the MCU films. Supposedly that was the quote. But like
maybe he was on a plane somewhere and
that's tough.
Thor 2 was shown.
Yeah, but that's tough though. Like if you didn't have like the beginning to end experience like a lot of us did, you know, like did he make 23 movies all like in a row that all blew through the box office? Like
No.
I don't know.
He did Goodfellas, right? I think he did Goodfellas.
Scorsese probably did Goodfellas. Yeah,
could be
It kind
I don't
of
actually know.
taints his legacy to me. It's kind of like in music, the greatest artists kind of like see the value in everyone's work. Like when Conan was talking with Kesha when she like blew up,
Oh yeah,
and Kesha was like, "Why have you always been nice to me even when people like weren't and stuff?" He was like, "I see you work hard, like." And I don't know if that's necessarily his taste in music, but it's like hardworking artists recognize hardworking artists.
Yeah.
Regardless if you like love exactly what they do and stuff. So for somebody like him to be like, "Oh, it's beneath me because I'm old and established," it's like, sure, Thomas Wayne. I hope the Joker offs you when you're asleep.
that's a good segue right there. Back to Joker. Make sure you guys check out all of our pod stuff.
And be nice to other people. That's the moral of the Joker.
For all you new guys, welcome to Yellow Spandex, where we talk about all kinds of awesome things.
Yeah, we got quite a bit of new followers and new downloads this last few weeks, so thanks for joining us. We put everything out on Wednesdays.
That's right. So stick around for next week, and we'll see ya on Yellow Spandex.